welcome to Training Tuesday. Thank you for joining me live as you guys do every Tuesday night for Training Tuesday here in our group, Accelerating Leadership for Professional Women. So tonight we talk about that next promotion, that next step in your career that's going to help you get exactly where you want to go. And I have a 3-step formula for how you win your next promotion, win it faster, and win it with more confidence and less imposter syndrome. That's really what I want to talk about tonight, is how do we move through our career faster? How do we move up that ladder, right? Up those steps, whatever you want to call it. How do we do that more quickly, with more confidence, with better results? If you are somebody who's looking at your career and thinking, I just got to get to that next step, and you're kind of banging your head against the wall or feeling like it's just not quite happening for you, then you're the person I'm talking to tonight. If you are ready to go get that next promotion, you're already ready to apply for it, it's out there, and you just want to figure out how to nail it, this is for you. If you know you want to get further in your career, but you don't have a ton of clarity around really what your end game is or where you're going with it and all of that, this is still for you too. So as we get started here, as a lot of you know who join me regular in Training Tuesdays, I have another screen over here, so I'm waiting for the video to pop up so that I can follow comments and have conversation with you guys. Here we go. Now we're good to go. So Tonight we're talking about the 3-step formula to winning your next promotion. And this applies whether you're on the cusp and ready to apply for that promotion or are waiting to hear back. It applies if your promotion you think might be still another year or 2 off, because the 3 winning steps that we're going to talk about are really the steps that you need to manage your career overall. Really, to manage how you're going to push yourself continually through the different stages of your career. Now, I'm going to start by sharing kind of why I came to this and how I came to this, because I think it's important to know that we all get to this place in our career where we feel a little bit stuck. Like, we know there's a next place to go. We know that we want to get there, and yet we're not always quite sure how. Like, what are we doing that's not working? Or what else could we be doing that would make the difference, right? That would push our candidacy over the edge, or would just get us to that end goal that much faster. So I want to share with you where my pivotal moment was. So before I dive in, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Natalie Hahn. I am CEO of Dirty Girls Consulting. You are in Accelerating Leadership for Professional Women, and we are very happy to have you here tonight. So every Tuesday night, I'm here live. We have a short training discussion, and then we come back the next Tuesday and we do it again. And we cover a variety of topics around leadership skills and confidence building and how we show up as leaders and CEOs, not just at work and of our jobs, but also of our lives. So we cover the whole spectrum of what we would call work-life balance or work-life integration, as well as career management and relationship management. All this stuff is intertwined. And so tonight, while the focus is on how we're going to show up in our careers in order to get that next promotion, I think as I talk it through, you're going to see how a lot of this also applies to how you are CEO of your own life as well. Now, if you're joining me live, say hello in the chat, tell me where you're from, and join in, jump in, ask questions, make comments, share your stories with each other. I'm going to start by sharing mine, because if you've been in my master classes, you've probably heard this story. I've shared this story before. But I share the story because it was so pivotal in my career into making a difference in how I showed up as a leader. And the story, the crux of the story, I'll just get right to the crux of the story, and then I'll walk you through it. The crux of the story was that I didn't get a promotion that I was very actively angling for, that my boss and the company knew I was actively angling for. Twice I didn't get it. Hey, Jackie, happy Tuesday. Good to see you here. And Jackie, I know you've heard this story, but you get to hear it again. And I'll make it quick. But twice I didn't get a promotion that I had been angling for. And it was in that moment of being denied twice that I really had to sit back and go, what's going on here? Because here was my situation. I'd been in my career for, gosh, at this point, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years I'd been in my career. No, closer to 7 or 8 years. I'd been on my career track for about 7 or 8 years. I knew I was ready for the next level. I knew I was. I had the experience. I had experience. I had the know-how. And I had ideas. I had these visions for what I wanted to do with this team I was working on. So I was working on a team, and I was looking to get promoted up to be director of that team, and I knew it was time. It didn't matter how much I knew. What mattered was in my efforts to get that promotion, I, for some reason, wasn't able to get that through to my boss. My boss wasn't promoting me. The company wasn't promoting me. And I was doing all the things I thought were right, all the things that had gotten me to my career at that point. I had been working a lot of extra hours. Like, I got up in the morning, I got on my laptop. And I had little kids, so I bundled up my little kids and I got them to daycare. And I was at the office and I was working. And I would come home, do the dinner routine, put the kids to bed, and then I was back on the laptop and I was working again. I was working around the clock because I felt that the more I showed up and the more work I got done, the more I was going to show them I was dedicated and I'm a team player and I've got this. They can rely on me. I also did the whole volunteering for extra work and extra projects. Right? I took on projects and assignments that weren't really quite in my bucket. I was in marketing at the time and they really weren't quite my thing, but I thought more visibility and they're going to see what a great team player I am. I'm involved in all these things and I know the company so well and I know the product so well. So I dove in and took on a bunch of extra work, which then required me to work those extra hours because I was doing stuff that I wasn't really supposed to be doing. And I thought all of this was showcasing all the right stuff. It was showcasing dedication. It was showcasing intelligence and know-how and hard work and commitment. All of those things. Hey, Melody, it's nice to see you. So that was the track I was on. And those efforts of the extra hours, those efforts of the extra projects, of playing really nice with my coworkers and my bosses, always asking, what do you need? What do you want? How should I do this? Making sure my boss was giving me really clear direction. How should I be doing this? What do you want to see out of this? And that I was following instructions. All of that stuff, it got me through grade school, high school, college, and it got me through the first part of my career. This whole style of just giving. And now I was at this point where I wanted to step into a true leadership position. And my boss kept telling me, you're not ready yet. I don't think you're ready yet. And he kept using a phrase like, you have to show me, you have to step up more. And I didn't know what that meant because I thought, holy cow, I am stepping all over the place. I've got all these projects going on. I'm so busy. I have no time to sleep. I barely spend time with my kids. What does he mean I have to step up more? How much more can I step up? So I didn't get the promotion the first time. I went and got advice from a mentor of mine who basically said, keep doing what you're doing, right? Keep working harder. You got to prove it to them. You got to prove them that you're ready for this. So I spent another, 6 to 8 months on a new project, proving it yet again. And the project was successful. And I still got the response of, we're not seeing it yet. And I thought, what? What are you not seeing? But I couldn't get a clear answer from them. And I realized I needed to figure this out. If they couldn't verbalize to me what was missing, I still needed to figure out what was missing. Because if I wasn't getting promoted here, was there something wrong with the company? Was it me? Like, what was happening? That moment of the second time of not getting the promotion, and just to put some context around this, because I know some of you, this will be familiar, right? To put some context around this, I had 2 toddlers who were 3 and 18 months. I was pregnant with my third, and at the time, my then husband, was going to be ex, but then husband, was on deployment overseas. So I was single parenting with 3 kids. He was overseas, I was alone and pregnant, didn't have any family around me. And will admit this point blank, and I've admitted it before to this group. I already knew my marriage wasn't going to make it. I already knew at that time that 50-50 that my marriage was going to survive long term. And so in my head, there was a lot of drive for, how do I take care of myself and my kids? How do I have enough income and financial support to be able to offer stability for my kids, especially with a husband and potentially an ex-husband who was Army and always overseas, which is true. For the 22 years we were married, 12 of them were spent overseas. So already in my head, I was planning for this potential eventuality. So it was critical to me that I had a way to support myself, to support my kids. And on top of that, there was a career path I wanted to have. There were goals I had. There was a vision for how I was going to run marketing at other companies, and I was going to be the big boss. But I had to get past this threshold of being kind of a junior manager, right? I was a senior manager, but I wasn't a director. And in corporate America, I know all companies are a little bit different, but there is a threshold of director, and then there's the next threshold of VP and executive ranks and all of that. And I was just trying to get to director. So Melody, definitely familiar. Yeah, it's not a, our stories are all unique in some way or another, but we have a lot of threads that are in common, right? A lot of us, we go through a lot of the same stuff. So understanding that I had this amount of pressure and drive that I was admittedly putting on myself, but to get this promotion, when I was at the point where for the second time my boss said to me, the second time in 8 months said to me, I don't think you're ready yet. I really had to sit back and go, what am I missing? Because this isn't the path I imagined for myself. This isn't what I want for my life. This isn't going to help me get anywhere close to what I want to do for myself and my kids. What am I missing? So I took a lateral move at another company. So the one thing I did figure out was twice not promoted at this company, it's not going to happen. I need to go on to a fresh environment and start over. I didn't look for that promotion in my next move because I knew I wasn't ready. I thought if I can't get promoted here with a company where I respected the management team, I think they respected me. It was a good work environment. So I wasn't feeling oppressed. I wasn't feeling crushed or like I didn't have a fair shot. I just felt like I didn't know what to do. I took a lateral move at another company and thought, I need to think about this and I need to figure out what I'm going to do differently. But my level of frustration and honestly my level of fear was pretty high. So the move I made was to break one of the patterns that I talk about when I talk about the good girl groove. And I think I have another Tuesday training where I talk about the good girl groove. I had to break that pattern. And at the time, I wasn't consciously breaking a bad pattern. At the time, I was like, I have to try something different. And I was frustrated. And the different thing that I tried was I asked myself the question of, if I were to do this job my way, not keep asking my boss what my boss wants, what my boss expects, what it's supposed to look like to make my boss happy, but to actually do the job the way I envision the job being done, the way I would do these tasks or these projects and how I would conquer them, would I have done things differently? And when I looked back at my last job, I realized, yeah, there were a few things, there were several things, that in those projects that I was managing as I was so busy trying to prove myself, right? There were many things that I was trying, that I would have done a little bit differently. I would have managed the team a little bit differently. I would have handled this aspect of it differently. I wouldn't have bought that promotional giveaway. I would have done a different one. And the revelation that I had not been doing the job my way, I had always been asking how they wanted me to do it, was a huge light bulb moment for me. Not that this was going to change my career, honestly. It was a little bit of a rebellious moment of, well, hell, if I'm not going to get promoted anyway, I may as well do the job my way. It's like, if I'm going to do this job and this is where I'm stuck, I may as well just do it my way and see what happens. And what happened was 3 months into this job where I decided, forget it, I'm doing this my way. 3 months in, I got a director promotion. And 6 months after that, they made me vice president. That's how fast things turned around for me once I stepped into owning what I was doing. So when I talk tonight about the 3-step formula for getting this next promotion, it can happen quickly if you let yourself really step into it, though, really own it. Now, part of the situation, part of my good fortune might be the situation I was in, the company I was in, and who the boss was, or I was at a new company. All of those factors that we call luck, sure, they factor into it, but so did I, because I showed up at this job as a different person. Now, the changes I'm going to talk about are things you can do in your current job, you can do in a new job if you're starting a new job. It doesn't matter, because the changes are not about who your boss is. The changes are not about who your coworkers are, what the company is, what they sell, what they do, whether it's not for profit or for profit or government. It's about how you're showing up. And at the end of the day, this is what matters. How we show up is what changes how our career trajectory goes. This is what changes how fast we rise, where we rise, and how we're perceived as leaders. So let's dive in. And if you guys have questions or comments, I can see some of the comments in the chat. And thank you, Melody. I appreciate that comment. Ask away. I'm always happy to share either more of my story if that's helpful for you. If you have questions as I go through these 3 steps, feel free to ask and I can clarify. So there were 3 steps that I looked at that I think are critical to changing the way you show up and really accelerating your career path. And the first one, and this first one is the one that I think is missing a lot. A lot of times when I talk to the women in this group, right, when you guys come into my group, I try very hard to reach out to each one of you individually and ask, how's it going? What are you working on? Do you need help? Are you just here to learn, and meet other women, whatever it is. So first of all, if you haven't heard from me, check your Facebook private messages, because if we're not friends, I'm in that random folder of random people who want to connect with you. But I do try to reach out to every one of you. And I ask that question to get a sense of, for all the women in this tribe, right? You're all hardworking, you're all professionals, you are all high-performing women. You're ambitious. That's why you're here. It's about, how do we do more? How do we make more of an impact? The one thing that I find many of us lack, and this is what I lacked at this stage also, it was the vision. It's the vision of, where do you truly want to go? Where do you want to be? I had a vision of, I need to make more money because I need to be able to support my kids, and I want a bigger house, better lifestyle. I had that kind of vague vision of just, I need to make more money, and so I need to do something more. I need a promotion. That's not the same as having a vision for my life, as having a vision for my career. We make decisions differently when we have clarity around our vision. And everyone who's worked with me will tell you, one of the questions I always ask is, so where do you want to be in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? When you are 95 years old and sitting on your front porch, what's the life you want to look back on? When you look back on how you lived your life, what do you want to see? When we don't have that clarity of vision, we make decisions in the moment that impact the moment, like best idea at the time in that moment, but they're not necessarily the best decisions to help us build the life we want to get to, right? When we think about this in terms of money, it probably makes a little more sense, right? So you get flush with cash. Somebody gives you randomly $10,000, right? It's not life-changing, but it's a nice chunk of money. What do you do with the $10,000? Well, in the spur of the moment, you're like, free money. I didn't have it yesterday. I have it now. I can do anything I want with it. So hell, shopping spree, go on a trip, right? All these great things come to mind. And that may be fantastic and a great way to spend your money. If, though, I look at the $10,000 and think, wow, that's a great windfall, but I have a future plan, for example, of buying a house, I might make a different decision about that money. If I have no future vision for the house that I want, the cottage on the beach kind of scenario with me and my dog, right? In, somewhere quiet kind of thing. If I don't have that vision for what I want, then I'm never going to be making decisions to help me get there. If I have a vision, I was talking to a client the other day who had a vision of an apartment in Paris. If I don't have a vision for that apartment in Paris, I'm never going to make the financial decisions to ensure that I can afford that apartment in Paris. We do that with money. It is the same thing with our career. If we don't have a great idea And by great idea, I don't mean you have to have it completely locked down in terms of it is exactly this job, this title, this amount of money that I need to have at year 5 in my career versus year 15 in my career. That's not what I mean. I mean, if you don't have a vision for the kind of impact you want to have and the type of career you want to have, you're going to struggle a little bit. You're going to struggle a little bit. So clarity around your vision, where are you going, is really important as you step into leadership and as you look at your promotion. And you know this from job interviews, right? At job interviews, they always ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Truthfully, in a job interview, I kind of hate the question, but I get why they ask it. And I ask it myself when I do job interviews, because what you're trying to get to is, what is this person's level of ambition, right? Where do they see themselves? Because if I'm going to hire someone and I'm now partly responsible for their career development, I want to know where they're going. Do you want my job? Then I'm going to help groom you so that you can take over my job one day, because I have enough ambition that I don't want to be in my job 10 years from now. I want to be doing something else, right? If you have a career ambition that is outside of the job I'm hiring for, then I'm going to say, okay, but you could be great at this job for a couple of years and it's going to help you get to that other thing. So we figure out that path. But there's a path. So step number 1 in the formula for successfully getting your next promotion is know your vision. Where are you trying to go in your career? Is your next job title VP? Is it a C level? Are you chief, I don't know, marketing officer, chief sales officer, chief technology officer? Are you CEO of your own company? But know what the vision is. And if it's hard for you to think that far out, try to think 2 promotions out, not just the next promotion. The next promotion is almost always about, I want more money, I want a better title, I want a little more responsibility. Great. What's after that? What's the title after that? Now you're building steps to your career. And even if you are at the stage in your career where you're like, well, I'm already at a director or VP level, I don't have that many more levels up to go, you still have a career to plan. You still have a direction where you want to end up that helps define, when you're sitting on your porch when you're 95, right, what you're looking back on. What's the impact you want to have? Okay, so step number 1 is vision. Step number 2, aside from needing a vision, you need to use your voice. And this is the one everybody hates. And you all hate it because you all know it and you know it's true. And I have several other Tuesday trainings where we've talked about different ways to use your voice. But here's the deal. You do have to use your voice. You are your only advocate. And that's not a workplace gender thing. That's just a truism, because no matter what gender you are in the workplace, you are responsible for your own self-promotion. It just so happens that men are better at it. As women, we tend to have a natural proclivity to not bragging. The idea of bragging makes our skin crawl. It's icky. However, there is a way to talk about the work you're doing and the impact it's having that is not bragging. And that is the tool that you need to use. And men are very good at this. They are very good at talking about their successes and their accomplishments and what they've done. And sometimes it sounds like bragging, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they are just stating their accomplishments. And nobody raises an eyebrow at that, right? It's not a problem when we state what we're doing. The bragging part comes in when we're trying to get into that one-upmanship and we're trying to make ourselves look bigger or better than we are. That's an attitude, but that's not a statement of fact. So there are ways, and if you're interested in getting into the details of some of these, I have some other trainings I can send you to. We can chat one-on-one, but there are ways. But you need to own your voice. You need to own your voice in 3 areas, okay? One of them is self-promotion. You need to send that weekly email to your boss that details what you did this week and how you impacted the company. So self-promotion is important. Whether you send it to your boss, to your team, to the executive team, or to the whole company, you need a communication tool where you are documenting the impact you are having in your job. The second area where you need to use your voice is to actually express your ideas and opinions, because we sit there in those meetings and we don't offer an idea because we think, it's probably kind of stupid. Somebody else has already thought of this. Nobody wants to know my opinion on the subject. And so we don't speak up. We have all this fear of judgment about speaking up, especially in a group situation. But what ends up happening is we never share our ideas, and then somebody else has the same idea. They share it, they get all the credit. We don't share our knowledge, our intuition, and our experience, which we all own, and which is why you're there in the first place. So the practice using your actual voice to speak up and just share your thoughts. It takes a certain amount of vulnerability and trust that even if people look at you and say, that is a dumb idea, you're going to survive. The key is that you're speaking up. The key is that you are learning to share your thoughts. You're learning to evolve them, which means you're learning to be heard. When we complain about not being heard, it is often because we are not communicating clearly. That really, the majority of the time is the problem. We are not owning our communication. We're putting the onus on the listener to understand what it is we're trying to say. So you need to learn to use your voice. And the third area where you need to learn your voice is take a stand. Take a stand for something. What's your position? When I talk about us having an impact in our career, in our lives, in our families, whatever it is, how do we have an impact? We have an impact because we take a position. We take a stand on something. And that is part of the core of our values and who we are. Why do I have Dirty Girls Consulting? And why that name? Because I decided to take a stand for women who are struggling in their careers, or who not even are struggling in their careers, because actually most of you are doing really great in your careers, but you want to get to the next level. You want to do even better because you want to have even more of an impact. And I know, because I've been there, that there's this little glass obstacle course in the business world that we have to navigate in order to truly have that impact. And half of that glass obstacle course is in our head, and the other half is in male-dominated corporate environments. We have to fight those battles, right? We have to figure out that course. I took a stand that that's what I wanted to coach around, that I would only coach women, and that I would coach women around how do we navigate that path? How do we create a bigger and better lives for ourselves? And then I took a stand with the name because, as you all know, the name can be pretty controversial. Both men and women can react pretty negatively to the name. Now, most women understand when they see the name that this is about life gets dirty, life gets messy, and we get through it. We not only get through it, but we get through it and we're still strong and we're still beautiful and we still get it done. And that's the market I'm trying to reach. The women who understand that we don't have to sugarcoat who we are or how hard life is or how challenging our careers can be. But just because we don't sugarcoat it doesn't mean that we're still not strong, that we're still not gorgeous, that we're still not worth every bit of effort to build a life that we love. So the 3 areas where you need to learn to use your voice is self-promotion, sharing your ideas, and take a stand. What do you stand for? What are people going to remember you for? Your values, your alignment with your own integrity. Where is that? And speak it. The third step, winning formula for your next promotion. The third step is the first thing I actually talked about when I told my story, which is trust yourself. You have the experience, you have the knowledge, you have the intuition. It's all already there. And where we fall down the most is we don't trust ourselves to make the right decision, the best decision, a good decision, the smart decision. We know here and we know here that we have the right idea, that if we could just do it our way, it would all work out. And then that imposter voice comes up and we have all this self-doubt. Maybe I'm wrong. What if I'm wrong? People will judge me. What will they think? What will they say? If it all goes sideways, I'll lose my job. It will all come crashing down. That's the voice in our head, right? That imposter voice that creates all this self-doubt so we do not trust ourselves. We have to manage the voice. Because when you can manage that voice and start trusting yourself, that is when you show up as the leader. And if you're showing up as a leader because you're making decisions based on what you know to be the best course of action in that given moment, and you're using your voice so that everyone else knows this is where you stand on things and here's how you're leading, and by the way, you had this great idea. And you have a vision for where you're going. Why are you sharing these ideas? Where are you taking yourself and your business, your team, the company, the product, whatever it is? What's your vision? That's when we lead. When we step up into leadership, when that's how we show up with our vision, we show up with our voice, we show up trusting that we're going to get this right and we're going to figure it out. And guess what? If it all goes sideways, we're going to figure that out too. When you show up with those three components in place, you are already showing up as a leader. I want you to think about the other women you've watched throughout your career who have risen quickly. Maybe they started with you and they surpassed you. Maybe you came in and you just watched them and they were already above you, but you just watched them go, go, go. Doesn't matter. I want you to think about the women who have been promoted quickly. How did they show up? How did they show up in meetings? How did they show up in conversations with the team, with the boss, with you individually? They showed up using their voice. They showed up trusting their own opinions and their own ideas for how things could get done. And they had a vision for where they wanted to go. Those are your three keys. And the minute you start putting these pieces in place, you are behaving so much more in alignment with who you are and who you want to be, which makes your job, by the way, way more fun when you can do that. And it shows the rest of the world who you really are. And that is why stepping into leadership requires vulnerability. Because when you start showing the world who you really are, the back of your head says you're not good enough, you're running a risk, they're going to reject you. And we want to fall back in that position where we are asking everybody, is this how you want it done? How should I do this? Will this make you happy? Will this make you happy? I can go do those things to make you happy. Instead of showing up as, here's how I think this needs to be done. This is the best way to go about it. Let's do it. We fall back into the old pattern of wanting to people please because it worked for so long. But if you are stepping up into a new role, new promotion, executive ranks, senior ranks, doesn't matter. You're stepping up into just the role of managing your household. How we show up matters. Have a vision, use your voice, and trust yourself. So thank you for joining me tonight. Those are your three steps, your three-step formula for winning your next promotion. It can happen quickly because those are all internal changes. Those are all in here. Those are all changes for you. And the sooner you start showing up as that leader, the sooner you start getting rewarded externally for that leadership, because now you're truly showing up. So if you would like to talk about this more, I would love to talk to you about it as well. I have a group coaching course, actually, that I am getting ready to fill. We're going to launch in September that I would love to invite you to talk with me about. The course focuses on topics exactly like this. It's a 10-week course. It is all around developing your leadership skills, your confidence skills, your communication skills, self-trust. There's a whole bunch of stuff around how do we learn to trust ourselves? How do we tap into our knowledge and experience? How do we build teams? How do we build groups, right? How do we lead? So it's a 10-week course on leadership and confidence that is all designed around getting you to that next promotion, the next raise. If you'd like to have a short conversation, and by short, I mean we'll talk for about 10 or 15 minutes just to get a sense of whether this is the kind of course that would fit for you, then I invite you to drop the word lead in the chat. So the word lead. And what we'll do is we'll schedule a short call to see if this 10-week course is right for you. And the reason we do the screening is because we want to be sure that it's a good fit. It's a fit for you. It's a fit for me. We both win. If it's not the right resource for you, then I'll tell you. And we'll find another resource to support what it is you need in your career right now. So drop the word lead in the chat. Let's talk about how we get rid of imposter syndrome, how we boost your confidence, how we get you moving with so much more power and joy, honestly, through your career as well as through the rest of your life, how you're building and managing your relationships, both at work and at home, because they do impact each other, how you use your voice, how you speak up, how you trust yourself. All these topics and more we cover. Drop the word lead in the chat and we will have that short conversation. Until then, have a fabulous week, ladies. Gotta slow down a little bit there. And I will see you at our next Training Tuesday.